guests. And of course, stay tuned here. Wake up tomorrow with the VSiN Weekend Morning Line at 10 a.m. East, followed by Ready, Set, Bet starting at 1 p.m. Then stick around for Live Bet Saturday. Great day of programming. I got a bunch of, like we said, got some NHL plays. I'm sure they'll be giving out some MLB, talking Preakness, maybe even a little WNBA. We seem to have the UFL market cornered for VSiN, Ryan.
Yeah, no one else talking about it.
No one else talking about it. And again, check out the early week 1 NFL lines, fun discussion if you like betting on football. And of course, I'm guessing you do. And as always,
thank you for participating in the Sports Gambling Podcast.
For Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm Sean, second the money green. He's Ryan.
Sean, A.J. Brown, 100 yards first game against Dallas, plus 260.
Kramer, let it ride.
Huge news. Right now at Wendy's, you can get a Son of Baconator for just $3. I don't think you understand this situation. The Son of Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. You know, smoked bacon, rich melted cheese. That Son of Baconator is only $3. Thank you to whoever wished upon that.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. And they all have one thing in common. Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard, that's optional. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Okay, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. So mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. Socks going first, then shoes, right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes twice a day, making sure they brush their teeth, is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
How's it going? I'm having a stroke. Are you going to shake my hand? I'm having a stroke. Wow, you're not even moving your arm. I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear. Look for FAST. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911 immediately. Know the sudden signs. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
The Storks are bringing me a baby brother. We can do this together.
All right, let's go. Storks know how to keep kids safe. Do you?
What? Oh my gosh, you don't know.
I know.
You don't. Oh man, you laugh when you're uncomfortable.
No. Making sure your child is in the right car seat is one of the steps to safer travel.
I will rock this.
You will rock this. To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the right seat.
Cool. Very cool.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier that makes sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
Youngstown, Warren, and Salem's local and national sports talk can be found on TuneIn and the Live 365 app at Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge.
Catch all of the spring and summer action of Cleveland Cobras minor league football on Western Reserve Radio. Follow the Cobras as they compete against teams from around the region in pursuit of a Tri-Point Football League championship. And if you're looking to continue your football career after high school, college, or even the pros, or to be part of the Cobras staff, go to Facebook at Cleveland Cobras Football or contact owner Jesse Caldwell at 330-416-3442. Be a part of the excitement of Cleveland Cobras football.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio, take one.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
It's time to kick back and listen to the sports page with your host, Pat Lucia, right here on Western Reserve Radio. You can call the show at 330-707-4202 and tell everyone what's on your mind in the wonderful world of sports. Now, here's your host, Pat Lucia.
Saturday morning sports page. Pat Lucia. I've got a special guest filling in for Dave Clark. Dave Clark out on the DL. Anyway, 330-707-4202. Get in and talk sports. We do it every Saturday morning here on Western Reserve Radio. Kind of checking something out on the board here. Minor technical difficulty as we work through it. Anyway, Gessler,
we'll get through.
We always get through it. Lot going on in the wonderful world of sports. Big game last night for those out there. The New York Knicks did away with the Boston Celtics, 119-81. Yes, that's basically almost a 40-point game, 38 points. The game was never close. I'm a Knicks fan. I was ecstatic and shocked. I thought that Boston would be a very close game. Game 6, Boston beat the Knicks. Game 5, very surprised that the Knicks even won this series. I did not believe the Knicks had a shot, and you know where, to even compete with the Celtics. I thought the Knicks would lose maybe get a game, go out 4-1. But when Boston dumped the first 2 games because they fell in love with the 3-point shot, kind of gave the Knicks the first 2 games. Same fate that happened with the Cavaliers. Can't lose the first 2 games. When Boston lost game 2, I thought this could be an interesting series. Boston won game 3 in New York. I figured, okay, Boston can get back into this thing. But when the Knicks won game 4, went up 3-1, I figured now they're in pretty good shape. But I didn't think they would win game 5 in Boston, and they wouldn't even really compete. But I thought game 6 would be an opportunity for Boston to find a way to get into this series and make it interesting, maybe force a game 7 in Boston. And I thought that this would come down to maybe who has the ball last, a nail biter of a game, because that's usually the way the Knicks play. They keep everybody in the game. That was not the case last night. The Madison Square Garden crowd was cranked up. The Knicks were cranked up. And Boston, I know they didn't have Jason Tatum. He's out with the ACL from game 5 or game 4. I just thought that Boston would realistically be competitive and make it a game. They did not.
Just want to make a point that watching high school for as many years, I used to go to all the Struthers games and Poland games, and I've always said, you're going to live or die by the 3-point. You still have to have more of the game. And for years, I watched teams, just destroy teams during the season. They get to the playoffs and bang, they get a couple of cold games, and boy, you get throttled by it because now you have no inside game. All you've done is shot threes, and it's just again that's what happened in Cleveland. Okay, and that's what happened when everybody thought it was going to be Boston, Cleveland. They were going to take it all the way and do whatever. It's going to be a great series, and it was a flop.
It never materialized. That's a good point, Bob. When you look at the old saying, live by the 3, die by the 3.
Yes.
If you look at the dictionary, the Boston Celtics should be right there in that saying because that's what did them in the first 2 games. They kept shooting the 3. They were up by 20 in each game against the Knicks. Let the Knicks back into the game, lost both games because they would not basically get away from shooting 3. When the 3 is not going in, you need to have a plan B.
Yeah.
Drive the ball inside, get your team on the foul line, try to shoot a layup, shoot a 10-footer, see if you can get the other team to foul you, get your team on the free throw line, and then maybe go back to shooting 3. But Boston, all they did, especially the first 2 games, and the last night, they did the same thing, only the 3. They were making the 3 in game 5 when they beat the Knicks, but in game 6, the 3 was not going in. The Knicks had all this momentum anyway. I don't even think if they had Jason Tatum on the team last night, they win that game anyway. Maybe it's a little closer, but the Knicks just dominated. But Boston lived and died by the 3-pointer in this series, and it basically did them in. They dumped the first 2 games. And Dave and I would always talk on the show about when you look at these playoffs, how like when you start to analyze games, and Cleveland did it when they I thought Cleveland was in really bad straits when they dumped that game 2 in Cleveland, and when they played Indiana, Cleveland, if they would have won game 2, which they were way ahead, and then they fell asleep in that last minute and a half and gave the game to Indiana going down 0-2, that sealed their fate. Because I saw the Knicks do this back in 96 or 97 against Indiana, where they just dumped game 1, they should have won it, to Reggie Miller and the Pacers. Yeah. They never got back off the mat and could not win that series. But I saw it happen with Boston and the Knicks and Cleveland and Indianapolis. Now you have, as you just said, 1 and 2, Cleveland and Boston. The whole storyline going into the playoffs was basically going to be, could Cleveland beat Boston? Or could Boston beat Cleveland?
Yeah.
And that was really the big, everybody just ignored, they ignored the Knicks because the Knicks did not beat any good team all year.
Right.
They were like some 0 for 15 against Cleveland, OK City, Boston. They could not beat a good team all year. So everybody wrote them off. I was one of them. And then same thing, Indiana was like, they're a good, solid team, but they're not going to be able to compete with Cleveland because Cleveland just dominated the regular season. So everybody had Boston, Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals and didn't even give really a look for any other of the team. This came as not only did you have one upset, you had 2.
Oh, yeah.
Upsets.
Yep. It's funny because I watched some of the game, and when Cleveland was ahead, it was like, oh, this is over. Then turn it back on, and you look like they had their feet in cement. I don't know if they thought, well, we got this game. And then they just kind of laxed. But it wasn't what they started. They didn't look like that same team when they finished. It was just, and how do you do that? You see them coming back, okay. Again, if threes aren't going in, okay, make an adjustment. You have a head coach, so he's supposed to be doing that. But, if you're 3 points going in, okay, these guys are all over you. Start playing that inside game. What's going to happen? It's just like football. You want to double on this one, and I'm going to hit the tight end, or I'm going to cause something else. That's what you got to do. But that's why they coaches make millions of dollars, and I'm a retired guy. It's the truth.
No, it is.
I don't understand this. Is it also that the players are running the show, or what happened to coaches? I'm real confused when I look and see some of these teams. What are the players? And I'm talking NBA.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that goes back to a certain gentleman that used to play for us. It's like he runs the team. I just don't understand it. Are they afraid to go against whatever? But they got to coach them up. Bring some of the old coaches back in there, and I'd see a difference in some of these teams.
Well, that was a big criticism they had, especially with the Celtics. When they lost game 1, they were dominating the Knicks. They're up by 20. So they're shooting threes, and they hit a dry spell, and nothing's going in. And obviously the Knicks just start getting back into the game. And sure enough, at the end of the game, the Knicks pull this thing out because Boston can't put a ball, as we say, they can't throw the ball in the ocean. They couldn't make a three. So, okay, that was game 1, and everybody was very critical of the coach, saying, do you guys have plan B? Like, is there any cognitive ability upstairs in the mental matter of your brain saying, okay, the 3-pointer isn't going in. It's the same coaching, like anything in football. You're trying something, it's not working. Okay, that's not working. We need to go to another play in the book or whatever case may be.
Right.
But they didn't do it. Boston didn't do it. They kept shooting the three. So it's like they lose. Okay, so you're thinking, all right, the criticism, the critics are out blaming the coach, blaming the team, saying, don't you guys realize that if it's not going in, again, you go inside, you shoot a 10-footer, try to get a layup, get the foul, maybe
create
momentum.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Okay, that was game 1. Game 2 rolls around, and not only do you have Groundhog Day again.
I like
the
that.
best way I could say it is Boston goes out, they're up by 20 again at home, thinking, okay, and every Knick fan said, well, we got our win in Boston.
Right.
And then every Knick fan was like, if we don't get blown out and we stay close, it's a win. They had no expectation of really winning that game because they already got their win in Boston.
Right.
But sure enough, Boston starts shooting up the 3, and it's going off the back iron, clang, clang, clang. And the Knicks somehow, some way win game 2. Now, all of a sudden, Boston's down 0-2. It was like the same thing that I saw with Cleveland and Indy. Cleveland played the first game because they had the big layoff because they swept Miami Heat to oblivion and crushed the Miami Heat. And even after you saw that series, I thought, well, Cleveland looks like a favorite to maybe win the NBA title.
Yeah.
Because Miami Heat are a fairly decent team.
Correct.
And they just basically blew them off the map, 30, 40 points. But then they don't show up for game 1 at home versus Indiana. And Indiana had a tougher, maybe a little bit of a tougher series with Milwaukee, but they did away with them, I believe, in 5 games. But then the Cavs don't show up for game 1 and hand the game to Indiana. So then you're thinking, okay, they were rusty. You write it off. It's game 1. But then that game 2, when they were leading it and big in that game, okay, now they're going to even up the series and make it, when we might have a decent series here. When they let Indiana win game 2, I knew right then and there. I said, I don't think Cleveland's going to beat this team. I knew Cleveland was going in a bad direction then. And then when I flipped and you see the Knicks beat Boston in 2 games up in Boston, and personally, I thought that the Knicks were a bigger underdog against Boston than Indiana was Cleveland, because I knew Indiana actually, I think it was a better team than the Knicks, because the Knicks were getting no respect from anybody going into these playoffs. We'll get into what does this mean for the regular season NBA basketball? What is it? Yeah, you don't have to really rocket science to connect that dot. So the bottom line is, when you compare these two series, not only did you get one upset, you got two upsets. So you got 1 and 2 losing, and now the Eastern Conference Finals are the Knicks and the Indiana Pacers, and the Knicks right now would have the home court. So they go in they'll host game 1 Wednesday at home versus the Indiana Pacers. And I think the Pacers are actually a slight favorite to beat the Knicks. I think this have 7 games written all over it, because I think these two teams are relatively evenly matched. Maybe Indiana's a little younger and maybe a little bit more athletic, but I think this is just going to be maybe a classic series. So it's something that, at least, maybe not being a real big basketball fan, you'll probably watch some of these games.
Oh, yeah. I like it near the end.
Right, near the end, you'll flip on and say, hey, where are these games going? And you'll watch it. Now, last night, obviously, being the Knicks fan, I put it on not right away. I put it on after about 5 minutes into the game. I flipped it on because I had a bad feeling. I thought the Knicks were going to lose, because I'm that kind of fan I am.
Well, it's the Knicks, too.
It's the Knicks, and the Knicks don't win. The Knicks don't make anything easy.
You're right.
Historically, when you watch the Knicks, I was shocked last night with the way the Knicks won. I was a little surprised they won. I still thought Boston was going to get back into the series.
Right.
But I was really shocked that the Knicks blew them out like the way they did. I mean, I don't know. Stephen A. Smith said that he thought the Boston Celtics quit, that they just got in so deep, and they could just see that the crowd, the way the Knicks were playing, that there was just no shot of them winning that game.
Well, Cleveland and Boston, they probably went in there thinking, this is just going to be a cakewalk. They get beat at home, Cleveland, first game, and maybe they just still thought, we got this. And then it just started sliding off the roof.
It did.
It just kept compounding. And then once they lost those 2 games, that was it.
Yeah,
I mean, they were done.
Yeah.
You ain't going to fight. And Indiana, they came back and said, hey, we could do this.
Right.
This is great, but it's funny because back in the day, I got pictures when my brother Lenny, he actually worked for the Indiana Pacers. And when they would come to the old Coliseum, I used to go up there, and I'll never forget, I got a picture of Lenny standing next to a name, Steve Stepanovich. Yeah. His dad was here, I guess, here in town. 7'2". Steve walked over, he shook his hand. I was shaking a swim fin. This guy was so big. You don't realize, when you see it on TV, that these guys are so big. And then you look at somebody like a Shaq O'Neal. Shaq, he's just, oh my God. I mean, he would tower over him because of his size.
Yeah.
So the players have progressed. But again, getting back, I used to go to the Cleveland Pacers games all the time. And I'll tell you what, they were always great battles. Of course, that's when Hot Rod and all those guys played back in the day. And I really thought Cleveland was going to go deep this year. Again, I don't follow basketball, but I saw some of their games and I thought, wow, we could do this again. Shut down Cleveland again. And man, you want to talk about a disappointment. It was a big letdown. It was terrible.
I felt when I watching these games, we have talked a little bit about the West, because we had a good game in the West coming up this Sunday. Tomorrow, it'll be the OK City, Denver, and OK City at 3:30 ABC playing for the title, or not the title, for the right to play the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. So they have the deciding game on Sunday, and then we'll know, obviously, the Final Four in the NBA after Sunday, after the game. But that's been a very competitive series. 2 very good teams going back at it. The Joker and the Denver Nuggets playing, obviously, OK City, a great team. So they're a number 1 seed. and they're looking obviously to advance and play the Minnesota Timberwolves, who basically were a 6th seed, and they beat the Lakers in 5 games, and then they advanced. They beat Golden State. No Steph Curry, and Minnesota won that in 5 games. Had maybe Steph Curry been able to come back from his hamstring earlier, I think maybe Golden State would have at least won another game or two. But with no Steph Curry, Golden State just can't compete with Minnesota and did not. So now Minnesota waits either OK City or Denver. And again, that result will be after tomorrow, say around 6 o'clock.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes. But when you break down the Eastern Conference, the shocker is you basically have, I believe Indy was a 5 seed because they and they were playing the Knicks now that are a 3 seed. I'll look it up because they were either a 5 seed playing the Knicks because they were playing Milwaukee, and I think that was a 4-5 matchup.
Right.
The Knicks were playing Detroit, which was a 3-6 matchup. So you've got 2 teams that everybody's a little surprised. In the nobody really saw. I didn't really think. I had thought the Knicks had absolutely no chance against Boston, and I realistically thought that Cleveland would have. I thought the series with Indiana and Cleveland would be a little bit more competitive with Cleveland winning, and I didn't think the Knicks and Boston would be competitive really at all. I thought Boston would cruise and either win it in 4 or 5 games. Yep. Didn't see this coming. And then I was really surprised with the Cavaliers just not basically, I hate to say not showing up, but the bottom line is,
you're right. They didn't show up.
They did not.
They just flat out lay an egg. It was just horrible.
Yeah, the Pacers are a 4 seed. My bet. Yeah, they're not. They played the 5 seed. The Bucks were the 5. So it'll be a 3-4 Knicks home court advantage playing the 4 seed Pacers. Knicks a 3 seed, and then we'll wait to see what happens in the West. But you know, when you break down these playoffs, this is a weird year because the playoffs have been better. Historically, the NBA playoffs have a tendency to be chalky.
Yeah.
You could pretty much say, okay, why even bother to play these early rounds when you know who's going to be in the finals? Now, you do get outliers. Like Dallas made the finals last year. And I believe they were like a 7 seed or a 6 seed. And the same thing, Miami made it one year. The year before, they were in a play-in tournament, got hot, and ended up in the finals. So you have these outliers, but I believe this is like almost the first year that the 1 and 2 seeds don't even make and then if OK City loses, that'll be the 1 and 2 seed will be out in the West because Houston was the 2 seed and then OK is the 1 seed. And if OK City gets beat, you'll either 1 and 2 will be out in both conference finals, which you'd have to probably look back to see when that was the last time that ever happened in the NBA.
And you know what? Even in college, even with some of the basketball, some of the teams that were 1 and 2 get knocked out. Now this year college finished out with number 1 seeds, but a lot of times you think that team is going to make the run on, and it ends up where a 5 or a 4 end up. So it's roll of dice anymore. And I don't understand why. You would think Cleveland would have went in there and throttled them. I just don't understand. In Boston, the way I saw a few games, I'm like, my God, these guys got their stuff together. So it's going to be interesting because they play Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So that's going to be I may have to sit and watch that game because that's going to be an interesting game.
Well, that series with the Knicks and the Pacers, listening to all the analysts last night, they were already predicting. I think they were, but a couple of the analysts thought the Knicks would go win in 7 at Madison Square Garden in 7. And then they thought the series would go 7 with the Knicks winning game 7, which at home would make some sense. So it'll be interesting. This may be a very competitive series.
Yeah.
these two teams. Now, last year, the Knicks lost to the Pacers in 7 after being up 2-0, but they were hit with the injury bug, the same thing that hit Cleveland. And they, in Game 7, they had half the team out with an injury, and they lost Game 7. And obviously, then Indiana went on, played Boston, and lost to Boston, and then Boston ended up in the final. So, see if the Knicks get their revenge this year from last year. But so far, knock on wood, with the Knicks, health has been in their favor. And that's with the NBA playoffs, it always is, because it is 82 games. Then the injuries always seem to filter in these playoffs.
Oh, it's because they've been on the court for so long. And they don't. A lot of them don't get the rest. And you're beating yourself up. And these guys are making millions of dollars. I twisted an ankle. I'm looking to my future. Yeah, we're in it, and maybe they just say, "Hey, I just can't go."
And this NBA atmosphere, it's the load management. These guys take a lot of games off because that's what the way the coach, GM, they have it structured, but they still get your injuries at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, so far, Knicks coach Tom Thibodeau has always been under a lot of criticism because he plays his players a lot of minutes, and he's been criticized saying you wear them out going into the playoffs. Well, okay. That's what his criticism was previously. Well, this year so far, that hasn't been the case. In fact, now the Knicks look like a really different team than they were in the regular season. I mean, they were an okay team in the regular season, but they beat a lot of the lousy teams. They just couldn't compete with the better teams. So now, all of a sudden, are they competing? Again, they did away with Boston in 6 games. Nobody saw that coming.
Right.
And everybody thought Boston, being the defending champ, would be obviously looking for a repeat. Well, that's obviously not going to happen.
Yeah.
So now you're going to be looking at, can the Knicks get to the NBA Finals, and who will be there but they've got obviously a tall order, because the Pacers are a very young athletic team, and I didn't realize that, but watching them against the Cavaliers, they kind of Cavaliers seemed to me, as you said this, so out of sync, like they were playing in concrete. They seemed slower. They just seemed, I know they had injuries though, but they just seemed not to be in sync with this playoff series against Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, you looked at them play, and it looked like they were just cocky. Don't worry about, we got this guy. You got this guy. Come on, man. You're playing a pro team. You can't go in there with that attitude, because it'll bite you. And boy, did it bite. They got bit. They got chewed, spit out. I mean, that was just horrible. And they had they were sitting pretty, and we really thought this is going to be good. But again,
sadly, the problem you have is this season, if you're a Cavalier fan, or you're a Boston fan, or a Laker fan, you don't write this as a good season.
Oh, no.
It was a disaster.
Exactly.
I mean, the Lakers were, the 3 seed? They went out in 5 games in the first round in Minnesota. That's not good. We talked about that last week, but the same thing with the Cavaliers. To go out, you won your first series, but you were supposed to be at least in the conference finals. You didn't even get near there.
This is something that kind of, just a little twist here. It's like, and again, being a football coach, I just say this. What's your goal as a football coach? To make the state finals and win it, win a national championship, or win a Super Bowl. That's just how it goes. So guess what? When you fall short, as bad as Cleveland did, how do you look at that and say we had a successful year? Because you didn't. The name of the game is to win the championships at all level. So when I see coaches taking bows and said, well, here's my resume. I made the playoffs 5 times. Okay, so what?
Yeah, but
how many championships you got? How many championship games did you play in? That's going to happen, and that's okay. You got in. Things happen, but how many?
That's the key.
That's the key.
To at least get into the championship.
Yes.
Saturday morning sports page. Pat Lucia, Bob Gessler filling in for Dave Clark, doing a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We got 3 more quarters to go in the game. We'll be back after a quick timeout. Western Reserve Radio.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Nina's Pierogi House is your home for the area's best variety of pierogies. Daily specials include the Polish platter, the Hungarian platter, stuffed cabbage, and halushki. Having a last-minute get-together? Lena's has you covered with a wide variety of frozen take-home pierogies and dumplings. Go to Facebook at Lena's Pierogi House to see the weekly lineup of available flavors for dine-in or carry-out. Catch the best at Lena's Monday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 20 North Main Street in Hubbard, or call 234-254-8532.
Meet Josh.
Hi, everybody.
Josh is a high school basketball player, solid shooter, great teammate.
Hey, don't forget my tenacious D.
And he's my son.
Oh.
So, what does Josh do to be the best basketball player he can be?
I play tennis.
Studies show that student athletes here in Ohio who play more than one high school sport are more likely to excel. Tennis does more than improve Josh's conditioning. It gives him a fresh competitive outlet, reduces the risk of injury by cross-training, and introduces him to different coaching techniques and new friends.
Don't get me wrong, hoops are my first love. Tennis just gives me a little break.
So when the new season begins, Josh isn't burned out on basketball. He's eager to play. And you can see the difference in his game.
This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Saturday morning sports page back at you, 330-707-4202. Get in and talk sports on Western Reserve Radio. I'm Pat Lucia. Bob Gessler filling in for Dave Clark as we motor through the wonderful world of sports this Saturday morning, May 17th, 2025. Make it like official stamp.
Yeah.
Anyway, talk about time. I was listening to the old countdown on 70s on 7.
Yeah, there you go.
Casey Kasem. This was the this week 1974, now 51 years, which scares me. I think back.
My brother graduated from Merson, 74.
74, man.
Told him always pick the wine before it was time.
And that's I graduated 74, and the number one song this year back in 1974 was Ray Stevens' The Streak. Wow. Talk about.
Yeah, we had Silver Bells and The Streak.
And that was not good. That was not good. No. That was not a good idea. On any level, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, that's good.
Not a good idea. But what anyway, getting back. Other news out there, we'll maybe go back to the playoffs. I'm kind of looking forward, obviously, the Knicks and waiting. I'll watch the games tomorrow. I'll have it on. I'll watch to see what Denver and OK City does. And then the winner will go on. And then I believe the way that schedule will, if they play the way usually the NBA now starts is you'll have the Knicks play Wednesday. They play Boston Wednesday. And I believe that this series will probably start Thursday. the Western Conference Finals would start then. Would be my guess. I was going to kind of look it up and see if I know the Knicks are definitely on the road till Wednesday. Do they have the Denver? No, Tuesday. Okay, my bad. It looks like that Sunday is the Denver OK City, and then Tuesday Minnesota will play the first game, and then it'll be the winner of Denver and OK City.
Okay.
So that series will start Tuesday on ESPN. Then the Knicks and Indiana will start Wednesday on TNT, and that's the 8:00 game. And Minnesota either at Denver and or OK City is 8:30 on ESPN Tuesday. Then that goes to Thursday. Then the Knicks are Wednesday, Friday. Then they just rotate.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to be. Other football news out there. The schedule came out. We want to talk about that. The Browns have one of the toughest schedules with the Giants. I looked at those schedules and I'm thinking that did the NFL really want the Giants to fire Shane and Dable? Because after you gave them that schedule, they're going to be struggling. I looked at that schedule. I'm a Giant fan. They get 6 wins. They're going to be lucky.
Yeah.
I hate to be maybe a realist to a fault, but I looked, and then the Browns schedule is just almost as excruciating as the Giants.
Why did the league do that?
I don't know.
Is it because they just want them to keep failing because they're worried about Kansas City and the Rams? And I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Nobody plays a tougher season than Cleveland. Every year after year they get nailed. And now knowing that we need a quarterback, we're not sure on the running back yet. Have they announced about Chubb? I have no idea. Everything I see on Facebook, he's gone, but nothing's in stone.
Right.
So I mean, it's just absolutely a disaster up there. I mean, I've been a Browns fan all of my life, and it's like, when is somebody going to take this team and actually do something with it? We want to bring the Sipe era back, the Cardiac Kids. We want to bring Bernie's teams back. It was exciting to watch them. It's just not exciting anymore. And then with Pittsburgh, oh boy, they're just ripping for not getting a quarterback. I mean, this is just horrible.
Throw some other quarterback news, come back to that, is Brock Purdy just signed a 5-year deal with the 49ers, $265 million. So they made him they're paying him like the NFL quarterback.
Mr. Irrelevant. How about that?
Yeah, Mr. Irrelevant signed it was agreed yesterday on a 5-year deal. He was going to, it's $181 million guaranteed and $265 overall, $181 guaranteed. His contract will average $53 million a year, meaning he will get paid more per week under his new deal than he did over the 3 years combined.
Sure, and that's understandable. Right. I get it.
So he will get paid more per week. When 1 week he makes $2.9 million, which is more than the 3 years combined that he played.
So I make $100,000 every snap. Right. I mean, it's just crazy.
Right.
It's crazy.
Brock Purdy finally getting paid like an NFL quarterback.
And he should.
And he should. He played good.
Yes, he did.
We'll see what the 49ers do. But looking at the schedules, which will be real interesting, the Browns have no primetime games.
Yeah, how about that?
And
none.
The Titans have no primetime, and neither do the Saints. So the New Orleans Saints, now they're looking at a quarterback because all of a sudden, out of the proverbial blue, Carr retires. So Derek Carr is he's
he finally, I know he had talked.
He announced that he was retiring, but rumor was before that he was looking around to see if there were other teams that wanted him. And then ultimately now we announced his retirement. So now the Saints are, basically looking for a quarterback. I mean, Now, do they make the trade? Speculation now is rampant because now it's like, what do they do? Do they make the trade for maybe they get Kenny Pickett?
See, the Browns,
I
still say the Browns, he picked up all 4 of those quarterbacks, and people him hard. Then when I sat back and they got Shadora, I'm thinking, man, they did something right. Because with Pickett, I liked him. I liked him when he was at Pitt. I thought he was a good ball player. I just don't know if he fell into a system that suited him. Okay. But now with 4 quarterbacks and Shadora and the other kid from, was it Hawaii, UCLA, whatever. I can't think of his name right off. I mean, they're battling. I mean, I've watched some of the practices, and they're both 2 quality quarterbacks. So why keep 4? Get another either draft pick or get somebody that Cleveland might need, a receiver, another linebacker, D-back, something for him. So you dangle him out there. Now, again, if they need a quarterback, it was the Saints. If they need a quarterback, man, that could be big for them.
Dylan Gabriel is the quarterback that Cleveland drafted in the third round from Oregon.
Oh, okay.
He played against. Well, he had transferred to. He had a few schools under his belt.
Yeah,
but his last school was Oregon.
Okay.
He was drafted third round. Then the Browns drafted Shador Sanders in the 5th round. So now you got 2 rookie quarterbacks at camp. People are criticizing the Browns for doing that. And then some people are saying, with Cleveland's quarterback situation history, you probably should draft 2 quarterbacks because you might as well have another quarterback in the room because bottom line is, and some people, a lot of experts had Shador ahead of Dylan Gabriel as far as overall skill set. So it might work out for the Browns. Now you've got Pickett and Flacco, and there's so much rumor that does Flacco want to stick around for this, or do you get rid of? They believe that you're probably going to get rid of one of the 2, either Flacco. You're not going to get rid of, at least people speculate that you're not getting rid of Shador and Dylan Gabriel, but you might get rid of Pickett or you might get rid of Flacco. Now with New Orleans having the sudden retirement, they've got the rookie that they drafted out of Louisville, and but I'm looking at I'm going to dig up what quarterbacks are going to have. Yeah, right now they have Spencer Rattler and the rookie Jake Haener as their 2 quarterbacks. And then they have the Tyler Shaw, who they drafted. He's the quarterback that they got I believe he was in the 3rd round. No, I think he's 2nd round. Anyway, that's what you have in your quarterback room for the New Orleans Saints. Are they comfortable rolling into the season with the rookie quarterback out of Louisville and Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener, since there will be no Derek Carr, since he's basically up and retired?
Or does Cleveland watch the battle? Shador wins it, and they put Dylan on the end of a string, saying, "Anybody need him?" He was battle. There was a battle going here, so they may keep Pickett because he has the experience. I think that might be the scenario. I just sitting back thinking, why was it 4? But again, we're not in the front office, and something I shake my head thinking, what are you doing?
We're not in the Cleveland front office, so we really don't know. But that's kind of where you're at, is with the sudden retirement of Derek Carr, opening up the door. Is Cleveland going to come into every trade conversation because they've technically, and this is saying that Watson's not even playing this year.
Oh no, they basically washed their hands.
So he's done. He's done. No, physically, he won't play. And then rumor is they will buy next year, early next year, they'll work out the buyout and cut him loose.
But I think there's going to be a legality there because he was doing things that he shouldn't have been doing, wasn't wearing the boots. Right. So there could be a gray line there. Cleveland might be able to say, we'll give you half of what we owe you, and that's it. That's all you're getting because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Right. Physically, because you were physically unable to play.
Right. He was basically.
So my thing is also with Flacco there, they could use him as a teacher, or will he may go to the Saints? There's a possibility too.
Yeah, I would imagine that the lines are burning up with New Orleans because they're probably looking at another quarterback out there.
Oh, they have to.
They have to. Then the question, obviously, what the other team out there, everybody's still waiting, is we're still waiting for Rodgers to sign with the Steelers. And now, word was Rodgers doesn't want to go. He wants to do his own thing. And that's why he didn't sign, is because that way he doesn't have to get into all these discussions about not showing up for this camp, that camp, blah, blah, blah. So he's saying, I'll sign with you guys after I'm done doing my thing, which is, what he likes to do. What does he go down in the hole or whatever he does in a box or smokes that stuff, whatever it is he does. Rodgers could do whatever he wants to do and not have to worry about being there for a training camp.
But see, here's my beef with that. They've on ESPN or whatever. He was like this at Green Bay, and he was horrible. I mean, the vulgarity and how he talks to his teammates. I don't care if you're a veteran or not. I'd go up to him and say, you know what? It's nice to be upbeat. Don't talk to me. I'm an NFL player. Don't talk to me like that. And I think that might hold him back too.
Yeah.
I think Tomlin, and again, they need a quarterback, but I think Tomlin's too smart to do that because that could really it could maybe make him big. Or it could flush him right down the toilet because of his attitude. How is the Steelers going to take this guy as a leader? So, man, there's a big if in between that. And I'm sorry. Rodgers needs to retire. You're done. Hang your cleats up. I'm sorry. Green Bay saw it coming. And when they traded him, and what is he? He got hurt with the Achilles. I get it. He's not a spring chicken, people. And he's very demanding of these guys. These young guys coming out of college, I'd have to go up to them and say, man, don't talk. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what kind of veteran you are. Talk to me like a human or a teammate. Don't think you're better than me. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
His name came up with New Orleans.
There you go. Yeah.
Now there's discussion. Does Rodgers go there to New Orleans to fill in that gap? Or does he end up going to Pittsburgh? Is Pittsburgh comfortable with rolling out Mason? I mean, if you're a Steeler fan, you're not happy. I'm sorry.
What was they thinking?
Right. You're going to roll out Mason Rudolph. Now, you have the kid, Will Howard from Ohio State, who may be a pretty good quarterback in the future, but obviously not. You don't think he's going to be the starter, but he may be better than Mason Rudolph.
Right. But do you bring Rodgers in to help teach this kid?
Well, that's what they want to do.
And I think that would be smart. That's what their point.
Right. What they want to really do, what Pittsburgh wants to do. Rodgers is still better. Let's face it. If you're a Steeler fan, Rodgers is still better. And you're a New Orleans Saints fan. Aaron Rodgers is still better now, even that he's got the Achilles. But he didn't play bad last year for the Jets. He had 29 his numbers were, I think he was 29 interceptions. No, 29 touchdowns and 6 interceptions.
Right.
And they didn't have a kicker. And the kicker lost most of the games for the Jets. It wasn't Rodgers. And everyone's complaining. No, Rodgers played pretty good all in all with an offensive line that wasn't anything to write home about. I thought Aaron Rodgers played pretty good.
He managed the team.
And if you got a kicker that makes kicks.
Yeah, I hate kickers.
They might potentially end up in the playoffs.
And they should have been.
And they should have been if you look at their losses.
Yeah.
That darn kicker for the Jets. If I was a Jet fan, I would be going crazy.
I'd have barbecued him in molasses. You're on the field for 30 seconds.
And you can't
kick.
No, and he can't kick. I mean, they had a game against Denver early in the year. I know it was raining, but it was like a 40-yarder, and he pushed it left. It would have won the game for him.
Right.
Then there were a couple other kicks of the regular season during the season that he dumped and he lost that cost them the game. I believe there were 3 games that he cost.
Could have, yeah.
So look at, again, what makes football the number one sport in America better than baseball, better than basketball, is the regular season means something.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
We watch all these games in the regular season. Everybody does because they know you can't lose regular season games, and you know you're going to lose some games, but you've got to go out to win them all. And NBA and Major League Baseball, especially we're seeing now in the NBA, Cleveland had one of the best records in the league, washed out in the playoffs.
Sure.
Baseball, you see that. But football, these games mean everything.
Well, sure.
And that's why football is always going to be number one.
Oh, yeah.
More than any other sport in America. And they want to get the best ratings. The NFL gets the highest ratings. College football's number 2. Then the other ones all fall into place.
Right.
But NFL football, Sundays, and they dictate everything. But the point is, these regular season games mean so much. That's why you're a fan like the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're not happy with Mason Rudolph because you've seen that story before. He's a backup. I'll say he's a good backup to be nice, and he's good to get you through a game or two in the regular season when your quarterback goes down with a minor injury. But you don't want him 6-7 games in. I mean, and if you're a Steeler fan, you obviously have to hope Rodgers is better. And then if you're a Saint, I mean, now the New Orleans Saints, you basically, for the sake of argument, I mean, Spencer Rattler.
I watched him play in college.
He struggled.
Yeah, I mean, he was good, and then he had horrible games. So he needs. You're not going to bring these like a Rattler. He needs a year or two under a good quarterback to be taught, or a good quarterback coach. You get a lot of these guys. They throw them in the NFL. Well, Burrow. Oh, he should. He's yada yada yada. We could start him right away, but there's not that many that come in there that are as successful. Rattler was, again, a decent quarterback
in college,
but then you expect him to come in and start on an NFL team.
But then you complicate it by putting a very lousy team.
Oh yeah,
an average. I'll say a very subpar team around him. And if you're a rookie quarterback trying to learn, and we see it time and time again where you bring quarterbacks in that need the experience.
Well, sure.
But then you put a subpar team around them. Now the kid's going to struggle. You don't have a very good offensive line. You don't have a running game. You've got to pass every down because you're 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9.
Absolutely.
Because you can't sustain a run. Your line's not that good. Watching the Giants all this year, I could, firsthand with Daniel Jones and everything. But the bottom line is when you get these kids and you bring them in and the team's not that good, or the kid needs more time to develop, like we're seeing that in Indianapolis with Richardson. A lot of talent, didn't play a lot in college. I think he only had 12 or 13 starts at Florida. Now he's in the NFL. Everybody said he should have at least stayed another year in Florida.
I agree.
To get more starts under his belt. But, he was going to be a top 5 pick. He came in and now he's struggling with Indianapolis. And, what is his future going to be? You don't have time in the NFL to develop a quarterback and lose games. You can't lose games. See, first and foremost, coaches have their jobs. They're not. They always say, "Yeah, I want to, get my young quarterback, develop them, but not at the expense of losing games." So it's a catch-22 is because the coach wants to develop the quarterback, but he doesn't want to lose games doing it.
And the owner wants him to be successful right off the bat, puts it on the coach. These are kids. I don't care what they did in college. They could have been great. You can't do that. I've seen NFL playbooks because of the kids men now that I was able to coach, and they showed us this stuff. I'm flipping through this thing and I go, well, how much of this book do you have to memorize? Coach, it's a whole book. How do you guys do that? The USFL right now, I love the way they do it because listening to some of their play calls, I mean, I can pick a little bit of stuff out of it because I understand what the Y to Z are and what they're telling them to do. They're telling them what patterns to run. But it's the terminology in some of this stuff. Gruden one time, he called a play and I'm going, he was working with just everyday people to run this play. You're this, you're that, you're the H, but you're here and this. And I'm going, why do you got to call it that way? Why do you take so long in a huddle? Call the play what it is. There's other adjustments you can do. So it's just a lot on these rookie quarterbacks. You think, well, they come from a UCLA or they came from an Alabama, so there's more of a pro set in there. It is totally different. Totally different.
Yeah, that's what I was listening to Brady Quinn on his show with LeVar Arrington and Jonas Knox in the morning, and that's what he says time a lot is how radically different the NFL game is to the college game.
Yes.
And he said, and they were even talking about, and this was an interesting discussion because they're saying about like players getting drafted by certain teams, how sadly, because the teams are so poorly mismanaged and run and the coaches aren't the best, the players are almost doomed to fail because of the system that's around them. Sure. And I always go back to Joe Montana, was drafted, third round by 49ers. A lot of teams didn't think he had the size and the arm to be a first-round pick, but he got into the system that Bill Walsh had. And Walsh had him in mind when he was drafting because Bill Walsh has that set system, and he knew Montana had not only, he had the ability to fit that system, and that's why Montana succeeded. Now he said, had Joe Montana gone to another team, he might not have had the success that he had in the NFL.
Well, Walsh was a brilliant coach, and he's one that could sit there, and a lot of coaches don't. He could sit there himself and say, okay, here's the adjustment. He don't need the eyes in the sky. No. And that was what Walsh was very, very smart.
Walsh was way ahead of his time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because he was the Bengals coach. He was an assistant with the Bengals under Paul Brown and then ultimately, and I think it was Tiger Johnson, and they gave the job to Tiger Johnson in that because Tiger Johnson was the D coordinator. Offense was Walsh, and Paul Brown coached the team. And when Brown stepped out, they promoted Tiger Johnson over Paul Brown, and then not Bill Walsh, and Walsh went out west to San Francisco. But the point, and now Bengals fans saying, boy, we screwed that up. Same thing that the Giants did when they promoted Ali Sherman over Lombardi. And that's another story in itself. But the bottom line is Walsh was a genius when it came to the offense. Got Montana. He fit that system to a T. Walsh drafted the team that he needed to help Montana succeed. And Joe Montana goes down as one of the best quarterbacks.
And the staff that he had, too. A lot of those ended up as NFL coaches.
Like the tree.
If you look at Cleveland, some of the assistants that were Cowher, Saban, when my brother was up there, I'm like, I didn't realize that those guys were up there. Of course, Cowher, I didn't realize, played for Cleveland. So when he went to Pittsburgh, I mean, it was just like, but again, we talk about here's quality coaches that you knew weren't going to hang around, that they were going to end up as pro or college coaches and make it big for themselves because they were so smart. So,
well, here, this is what I like more than anything. When you pull up the coaching tree of a coach.
Yeah.
We're coming up on half. We'll get to this, but this is when you start bringing up coaching trees, it blows
scary.
You away.
Yeah, it's scary.
Where these guys are. Saturday morning sports page back after a quick timeout.
You're listening to WRDB, Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, Warren, Salem, and around the world.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier that makes sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
Catch all of the spring and summer action of Cleveland Cobras minor league football on Western Reserve Radio. Follow the Cobras as they compete against teams from around the region in pursuit of a Tri-Point Football League championship. And if you're looking to continue your football career after high school, college, or even the pros, or to be part of the Cobras staff, go to Facebook at Cleveland Cobras Football. Or contact owner Jesse Caldwell at 330-416-3442. Be a part of the excitement of Cleveland Cobras football.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Saturday morning sports page coming back at you. 330-707-4202. Talked first hour of the show. Talked the NBA playoffs. New York Knicks recap won last night. They actually blew the Boston Celtics out of Madison Square Garden. 119-81. 2 more points. It's a 40. It was a 38-point victory. Boston never in the game. First quarter, it was not really that close. Knicks pulled away, and then they just put the proverbial foot to the pedal, and it was a blow. I mean, even I'm a Knicks fan, and I'm thinking, okay, you're up big. It was 64-37 at half, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm a Knicks fan, and I know how the Knicks play. And I know 64-37 is a blowout city, but I thought, being the Knicks fan I am, I said, but I've seen the Knicks blow leads, and I'm thinking, don't let Boston back into this thing. And then the third quarter was just pretty much, again, a repeat, and then it was pretty much close to over at half for the logical fan, the non-fan, like if you were watching,
right.
not having a rooting interest, would look at that game and say, this game's over. Being a Knicks fan, because I knew the Knicks fan in their history blowing games, I didn't think it was over. But then in the third quarter, the Knicks pretty much again
Well, they made history because that 38 points was the largest win for the Knicks in a playoff.
Oh, I believe
ever.
that. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. Because I was thinking in the back of my head of all the games I've ever watched, I've seen the Knicks lose by 38 in the playoffs. But now that you bring that up, I never saw the Knicks. I can't remember the last time the Knicks won like that. And that would make sense. That is a record for a franchise.
Yeah.
The Knicks never had that big a victory in the playoffs in a team franchise, which, yes, that makes sense because being a Knicks fan, they keep everybody in the game and they usually let everybody hang there. That first series against the Detroit Pistons, I thought they were going to lose that series, but they managed to pull out. But that series was the series where every game came pretty much down to who had the ball last. That was a very 6 games the Knicks won, but that was an extremely competitive series with the Detroit Pistons. It could have gone either way. So, the way I saw this with the Celtics, I figured, well, if they could get a game or two out of Boston, it would be a miracle. And then, as we talked earlier, they won the first 2, and it was not because the Knicks played great. This is the thing is, the Knicks did not play that very good in game 1 or 2. It was more Boston playing really bad and missing 3-point after 3-point after 3-point.
They fell asleep.
They fell asleep. They couldn't make a 3. They had no plan B, but kept launching up threes, and they gave the Knicks the opportunity to win 2 games that if, Boston makes some or changes direction, Boston probably should have won the first 2 games in Boston, but then going down and giving the Knicks the confidence that they needed. And then actually the Knicks played when they went up 3-1, game 4 and game 6 were their 2 best games. I would make the argument, well, last night's game was the best they've played. It was the best game in the playoffs.
Right.
The second best game was game 4 when they beat Boston and went up 3-1. That was their second best played game in the playoffs.
Right.
The way they played Detroit, they weren't pretty games. They managed to win them, but those games could have gone either way. And again, they were really close. So again, recapping the Knicks win, they will play the Pacers starting Tuesday. The other NBA game we'll know tomorrow, be a good game between OK City and Denver. That winner will play Minnesota on Tuesday night. So that's how at least the NBA unfolds. We went on in the first hour, we talked NFL football, Purdy's contract. He signs with the 49ers, 5 years. So he's being paid like an NFL quarterbacks are being paid. So we'll see how the 49ers do. Then we've got talking about NFL schedules. The Browns and the Giants have one of the toughest schedules in. Here's how it mapped out. NFL.com. Toughest schedules. They looked at the toughest schedules. Kansas City has 7 primetime games. They ranked their schedule the 7th. The Minnesota Vikings, they ranked their schedule 6th toughest. They have 4 primetime games. And then sure enough, the Philadelphia Eagles schedule, they're Super Bowl winner. They should have a tough schedule. And so should Kansas City because the teams get in the Super Bowl, they should have tough schedules.
Well, that guy in New York wants to make sure that his boy keeps winning games, though. We don't want to put too much on him.
Yeah, that's true, too. He does.
He watches. He's the face. Kansas City's the face of the NFL now. It is.
And Mahomes may be the face of the league. You're right. The Eagles and then the Chicago Bears are next. They have the 4th toughest schedule, according to this. Jesus. Followed by the Browns. They say they have the 3rd. They rank their 3rd. The Giants are the 2nd. And the team with the worst is Detroit. Detroit has the hardest schedule, according to this. But again, they're Detroit, Kansas City, and Philadelphia, they should have tough schedules because they went far in the playoffs. But the Chicago Bears, the Giants, and the Browns. They've absolutely, Browns, especially the Browns and the Giants.
Is it that the league just hates them? Because technically, you win a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. It should be. And Kansas City, 1, 2, and 3 right off the bat. Anybody that makes that playoffs, they should have the toughest schedule.
Right.
I don't know when that changed. It used to be that way. It used to be back in the day that, they tried to lighten it up to balance the league out. What in God? It's just, again, he hates the Browns. He must hate New York. I mean, I don't get it.
Because the Browns and the Giants, both those teams were 3-14. And yet they have the Browns have the third toughest schedule, and the Giants have the second. I mean, okay, Detroit has the first. Okay, yeah, well, they should.
They should.
Right. Their record was 15-2, and Minnesota was 14-3.
Should have been number 2.
They should be number 2. And obviously the Eagles and the Chiefs do. But, and here's the other thing, too. The Chiefs have 7 primetime games.
Yeah. Well, we got to keep the ratings up because we got to have Taylor there. That's the bottom line.
Hey.
And we got to keep that love affair going.
Let me tell you. Now they're playing on Christmas. They just took that game away from the NFL, the NBA. Remember Christmas was NBA?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Always.
And, well, the NFL said, no, we want it. So now they put their games against the NBA. And it's sadly not even close to ratings because the ratings for the NFL are through the roof. And then now I know they had there was a guest on Mad Dog Show, and I don't remember his name, but they talked about he was an NFL guy. He was very good. And he said that had Rodgers signed with the Steelers, and they knew Rodgers was with the Steelers, they would have put the Jets, Steelers, week 1 on primetime. But since they didn't know that, they didn't put the Jets and Steelers on primetime week 1. But had Rodgers been a Steeler, they would have.
Unbelievable.
Well, you see,
it's all about ratings.
Yes, because ratings are money. And that's what I've always told. Like, I would talk with Irish Reich would call me and we'd talk about like what they do with Notre Dame, how they move Notre Dame around for their games. Like they play quarter home game. They're playing down in Texas. They're playing Texas at Jerry Jones Stadium. That'll be a home game for Notre Dame. They'll do that with Notre Dame. They put them in Ireland, home games. I said to Irish Mike, I said, this is what cracks me up is the teams, colleges care about one thing, the money.
Oh, yeah.
And where it's coming. And I know people get upset, but the players are pretty much cattle or chattel, as they like to refer to the players, is because they're there to make money for the school. The the college players are there to make money. They're going to do what they're told. So wherever the team's going, and travel cracks me up because now all of a sudden you're getting some of these college coaches, especially the basketball coaches, are getting upset because of the travel. Mainly UCLA and USC having to come east to play Rutgers and play, the Big Ten, Penn State, Maryland, across country to play all these teams on the East Coast and vice versa. The Marylands and, Rutgers, they have to travel across the other coast to play UCLA, Washington. But this is what cracks me up. People go, what does that do with the players and their studies? And I laughed. It's because the reality is the schools don't care about the players and the studies. They're worried about how much money
they're going to make.
Because people don't realize that when the reason why UCLA, USC, Washington, and Oregon joined the Big Ten is because they were going to get they want to be part of the Big Ten network.
Correct.
They were getting, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 some odd, 69, 68 million to basically, they're going to get 69 million or 60 some millions from the Big Ten network. That's why they joined, because that's what killed the Pac-12. They didn't have a TV network like the Big Ten network. It's one of the biggest dollar networks there is.
Now, think about this. Remember what the schools now have to pay to keep these players there, too. Right. So with that more revenue, we could spread the wealth a little bit more on the players. It's all about the money.
Yeah, it is.
All about the money.
Right.
And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
What's funny is correct me if I'm wrong, man. A lot of these they interview a lot of these Notre Dame guys, and they don't want to go anywhere. They want to stay at Notre Dame.
Stay there
because, well, I'm sure they're getting paid. That helps. But you know what? It's if I can't move on to pro football, I got the greatest education in the country. I got a Notre Dame diploma. I will go anywhere and get a job.
Right.
Can some of the other schools do that? But I remember watching a UCLA and USC game and packed house all the time and this and that. They made granted, the colleges did make a ton of money on these guys. So now they have to dish out the money if they want to continue programs. Again, I've always said, we have said it on this. That's why Saban got out. I can't have a player that comes in. I have him as freshman and sophomore year, and then he'll play somewhere junior year, and then somewhere else the senior year. There's no it's all about the money.
Yeah. But the thing that cracks me up there is with these coaches is there's always another side.
Oh, absolutely.
Story. Here's the other side. Okay, the reality is this. Scholarships are year to year. So as much as these kids can leave, the coaches can basically get rid of them.
Oh, I understand
Okay,
that.
that's that side. The other side is so it makes me always wonder is as much as Saban gives you that, but he's recruiting off the portal too. You see, that's the other thing that these coaches, they cry because they lose players, but then they turn around and they recruit the replacements from the portal. So in fact, I think it was Dion said, why do I go in and and he makes a lot of sense here. Why do I go in and go after these high school kids that I don't know how good they are?
When I can go to
the portal, and I've got film on these guys in the portal.
2-3 years.
They've had a couple right. So I could actually see their career and see how good they are.
Correct.
And I can recruit them to come in because I've got more of a known entity. The kid coming out of high school, I'm looking at the 5-star rating. I don't know how good the competition was he played against.
Yes,
I mean,
that's true.
And that's probably the biggest question is these kids can look really good, but if the competition they play against isn't very good, and you've seen this time and time again where, these kids go to college and now all of a sudden
they're one of the sheep. They don't stand out as the sheep herder.
Because
I get it.
Their talent, they're good, but they're not that good. Their talent isn't as good as what they thought because they're not playing, the smaller schools that really, the reality is with high school football, this firsthand.
Yes.
There's probably some of the schools that shouldn't even have a program because they don't really have the players to fill the program.
Right.
But they're playing these schools, and these kids are racking up great statistics against these schools that aren't very good. And then all of a sudden they've got a 5-star rating and they go away to college and find out they're not playing, that school that's really not any good.
Right. If you would take some of these players that end up going, put them in high school, put them in an Ignatius or Moeller or Elder school, these big Division I schools. Now let's see how they perform when you've got guys there that any one of them could end up at the NFL or a major college. It's a whole different ball game.
It's a whole different game.
Sure, but there is standouts.
We got to, yeah. You're on the sports page. What's up?
Good morning, Pat.
Hey, Irish Mike. What's going on?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Good, man. What's going on?
Good morning, sir.
Okay. Yes. And, it's funny, just you look at the Boston Celtics who just 4 or 5 days ago were talking about maybe coming back and winning this series against New York and winning a title this year, maybe winning again one next year, winning 3 in a row. And now, obviously, Jason Tatum is most likely out.
He's out next year.
They're going to lose some guys to free agency and other things because they're so up against the cap. And it's amazing how things can turn on just one injury.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing we didn't quite get to. I mean, we were talking a lot about the Knicks and winning, but you're right. We didn't get into talking, and that's what is in a lot of discussion is you have Boston, who's got the 3rd highest payroll in the in NBA, and next year they will have the first highest. There'll be a $223 million next year, $195 million. And the question you're going to have, obviously, Tatum's not playing next year; he's out. Porzingis is in the last year of his contract next year, $30 million. They probably aren't going to trade. They aren't going to sign him. So when Tatum comes back, there's a potential that Jaylen Brown will be there. Now, Drew Holiday can opt out of his contract. They'll probably trade. Rumor is where they keep Drew Holiday because the year he comes back, he's in the last year of his contract when Tatum comes back. That's usually when they trade somebody. Now, Derek White will be okay, but they're going to potentially be missing two of their big stars or big players. Yeah. And Al Horford's done after. I mean, this year, Al Horford is basically done.
738, yeah.
Yeah, he's done. His contract expires. So I don't know if he re-signs with the Celtics or does he decide to retire or he can go anywhere else and sign. He was making $9.5 million, but this is the last year of his contract.
But you could look back and say we're the 2024 NBA champions, so it was worth it, Pat, from that contract.
Oh yeah, no, there's right. I mean, they did what they needed to do. They've got Brown and Tatum are there. And Jaylen Brown will be there when Tatum comes back. His contract and Tatum's contract mirror one another as far as the years go, and almost to the dollars. Drew Holiday's contract he's in the final year, 26-27. He can opt out of that for 27-28, or he could stay there for $37 million. Porzingis' contract's done after next year. They probably aren't going to keep him, because he really hasn't played much. He was sick. He's got some injury. No one really knows what is wrong with him. So he's going into the last year of his contract next year. He probably won't be there. So it'll be interesting to see, like Luke Cornett came off the bench. His contract's up. So what happens with the Celtics when Tatum comes back is what everybody's now wondering.
Right. And if all these guys end up walking, you're starting all over again.
Could be potential to be he and Jaylen Brown and Derek White are the three ones that are there. That's the core. After that, it gets shaky. So, it'll be interesting to see what the Celtics do moving forward. But they will have, and then how long will it take for Tatum to come back, and will he be the same player when he comes back?
There's another issue.
With the Achilles, you never know.
Yeah.
You know, Pat, I often joke with my students that after I retire from teaching, which is going to be a few years down the road here, and I'm going to write a book called The Hypocrisy of America. And the one thing I've been very consistent on, I've known you forever, correct? I gave up on the NBA regular season after LeBron left the first time for Miami.
Yeah.
If you remember his first go-around, gentlemen, in Cleveland, 08, 09, 09, 010, we brought Shaquille O'Neal in, Antoine James, every veteran in America that was at the last leg to help LeBron win a title, right? And the back-to-back years, 08, 09, 09, 010, the Cavs had the best regular season record in the NBA. They had home court advantage all the way throughout. And in 09, we lost to Orlando Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then in 2010, we lost to the Boston Celtics in the second round. And 6 weeks later, LeBron signs with the Miami Heat.
Yep.
And that's when I gave up and said, you know, we did everything we could. We had great regular seasons. We had home court advantage, and none of that mattered. I mean, so I've honestly, and Pat knows this, I've not followed the NBA regular season very hard over the last decade. I had to go to a game. My daughter was doing an event in the middle of November, about a week and a half before Thanksgiving, against the Bulls on a Friday night. We had to go up. I watched the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then I probably on television from November, late October to April, I probably watched 20 minutes combined on TV for the whole year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd watch the highlights on ESPN the next day and everything like that. But as far as watching a live game, I don't have much interest in the NBA regular season anymore.
Well, you know, it's funny.
Donovan Mitchell said in his exit interview on Thursday, gentlemen, what did he say? We could go 82-0 next regular season. People aren't going to care.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Well, it's funny, Irish Mike. We talked about this. It's like the regular season just drags through, and I'm one just like it. I like watching when it gets to the end, when the playoffs start, or in college when the tournaments start, because they're playing for something. It means something. So during the season, you're right. I don't watch any games during the season. It's just not. They're not good. They're not exciting. It's just not. So.
And people say, what about the NHL in the wintertime? What about Major League Baseball in the summer? But they take a lot less teams in their playoffs as well. I mean, the NBA takes 20 teams, and there's only 30 teams in the league. I mean, we have the playing games. I know that. And they say, well, that's not really well, yes, it is.
But yeah, because Miami, people forget 2 years ago, Miami got to an NBA final. They were a play-in team. And they made an NBA final. So you can't discount the play-in tournament as being irrelevant, because a team can ultimately find their way through the playoffs and get hot. And we saw it this year. You saw how great Cleveland was this year, regular season, and you saw them flame out against Indiana, and then Boston. I mean, and nobody gave, and I was first one. I didn't give the Knicks a chance. They looked terrible in the regular season, and that they beat all the crappy teams and they had 50 wins, but they couldn't beat a good team. They couldn't beat OK City. They couldn't beat Cleveland. They couldn't beat Boston. They couldn't, Denver, you rattle off the teams they lost, they couldn't beat a good team. So nobody thought the Knicks were going to do anything in the playoffs. They struggled against Detroit, who was 44 wins, and they struggled against the Pistons, and they won, but it was an ugly series, and they barely beat that team. And you're thinking Detroit's an average team, and the Knicks edged by them. And they didn't even play good against Boston the first two games, but Boston fell in love with the three.
They were terrible.
Boston shot their own selves in the foot to some extent, but the whole point now, the Knicks have momentum and they look pretty good. But based on the regular season, I thought the Knicks could lose to Detroit in the first round as the way they look, but now they've got momentum. They don't have the injuries, and that a lot of this is, and Cleveland had injuries, and they had a great season. But if you roll into the playoffs and you hit a hot team, and your team is injured, like Indiana's a young, athletic team, great coach,
15 less regular season wins in Cleveland,
right? But they got a regular season. Rick Carlisle's one of the best NBA coaches out there, but that's exactly at 15 less wins. But look at
Pat, you remember the morning we woke up on Sunday morning, February 2nd, to find out that Luka Doncic was traded from the Mavericks to the Lakers. Okay, that afternoon, 3:30 in Cleveland, the Dallas Mavericks played the Cavs in Cleveland, and one of my buddies went to the game. He just happened to have tickets, and Luka wasn't going to play either way because he was hurt, if you remember, so he wasn't going to play.
He had an injury, right?
Imagine that. The West Coast teams come into Cleveland and their best stars don't play over the last 5 years. And that's another thing I haven't fun in the NBA, but that's a different discussion, different day. But if you guys remember on that Sunday afternoon, the Cavs scored, I think, 92 points in the first half.
Yeah.
It was like 92 to 47 at halftime or something ridiculous. And my buddy's like, oh, this is great. He's texting me, and I go, you realize they're not trying.
Right.
God bless you, pay tickets for your kid. But I'm sorry, you're not giving any effort.
No.
That is lack of effort, right? Am I wrong?
No.
Come on, seriously. It's great the home team's winning. Rah, rah, get your pom-poms out. I'm glad. But you can't tell me for 1 second that the Dallas Mavericks were trying that day.
Well, I'll go one better. Do you think the Miami Heat actually put any effort against Cleveland in the first round? They played the first two games in Cleveland. They were somewhat competitive. And I'll give you, the first game was somewhat competitive. The second game but they went down to Miami. I think Miami figured they quit. They didn't even bother to play Cleveland game 3, game 4. Look at those scores. I mean, I can look them up, but they were massive blowouts. And I mean, they didn't even bother to compete against Cleveland.
How does that happen? As an owner, you're sitting here watching your team not care. I would be down in that locker room going, I'm paying you for this?
Well, that was a criticism they said with
Pat Riley's ego. You said Pat Riley's ego.
Right. And they were saying that with
livid.
Right. And Pat Riley, who's kind of got that tough nose approach for basketball players, he doesn't put up with a lot of crap, and he's a hard nosed guy, and he wants the team to play like hard nosed.
Well, they should.
And now he's got to look at, do I need to retool my team? Because this was embarrassing. Not
Hey,
only,
laid an egg,
they were
baby.
it wasn't like, I thought Miami would at least be somewhat competitive against Cleveland. I didn't think that they would just basically mail it in.
Yeah.
Well, they traded Jimmy Butler to trading deadline, so you trade away your best players. So no one looked at it and said, "Oh, hey, they're going to compete for an NBA title. They're going to get there." It was nice they won the play-in games. They got there, and maybe they could win one or maybe two games against the Cavs and bow out gracefully.
Exactly. But not to show up. I mean, Butler had to go because he wasn't going to play for Riley anymore. He quit, and he forced the trade. But then, for like you said, I thought Miami would at least be a competitive series against Cleveland, and they didn't even bother to show up. And then, I mean, obviously last night, Stephen A. Smith said the Boston Celtics quit last night. And I don't know if they might have. I mean, all I know is, or I think they realized that after the first half, it was done. It was done. Toast. Oh, hold on, Irish Mike.
Okay.
There's the break. We're at the end of third quarter. Saturday Morning Sports Page, back after timeout.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. Take one.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
What do basketball, choir, drama club, and marching band all have in common? They're all high school activities that offer learning opportunities not necessarily found in the classroom. They take up just a fraction of a typical Ohio high school's budget, and they go a long way to giving young people the tools they need to thrive. High school activities, they're more than extracurricular. They're extra important, too. This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Yeah. Saturday Morning Sports Page, Jack, got Irish Mike, and obviously Bob Gessler filling in for Dave Clark. Yeah, as we're back, fourth quarter of the show just gets started. We were talking about NBA salaries off, Bob and I, and that's the part that if you pull up Hoops Hype, which is a fantastic site, if you ever want to look at NBA salaries and the rumors, one of the best sites you can pull up for NBA. And they've got all the salaries listed. And the reality is, when I think what these guys make, like to your, what's his name, just signed the 5-year contract. Brock Purdy signed
Brock Purdy, yes.
The new contract. Okay, $265 million over 5 years, average out $50 million a year. But it's not all guaranteed, $180 million. But when you look at his contract, then you look at like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum's contract. They make, and all their money is guaranteed. Like Jaylen Brown will make next year, he makes $53 million. Following year, he makes $57 million. The year after that, he makes $61 million. The final year, he makes $64 million. All guaranteed money. I mean, this is guaranteed. So if they want to cut him, they still have to pay him. And if they trade him, somebody's picking up the contract.
We'll have to pick up the contract. Irish Mike, and you're a teacher. How would you like that?
Oh, yeah. There you go. There you go.
But I mean, I'm just saying that.
Oh, no, I agree.
We got back, we're talking that, and then you're talking about the regular season in the NBA. Like, the sad part is the Lakers and the Cavaliers and even Boston, this is not a good year for you. You had all those wins in the regular season, but when you're it was supposed to be Cleveland, Boston in conference finals.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, it was
everybody.
Talk about that was going into the playoffs. The whole discussion was, can Cleveland beat Boston to get to an NBA final? Because everybody just assumed that it was Cleveland and Boston in a conference. Why even bother to play the playoffs? Because the Knicks can't beat anybody.
Right.
And Indiana's a good team, but they can't compete with Cleveland in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
And the Knicks, nobody thought the Knicks would. I was hoping, I'm a Knicks fan, I thought if the Knicks win 1 or 2 games, it's good. But now they're like you said. But what does it mean? The regular season some large. It means nothing.
And I just started listening to you guys a half hour ago. I don't know if you guys talked about. There's even bigger sports issues you guys aren't even talking about. You know, it's humongous. And I can't believe you said if you're not talking about it. But Ohio State's starting games at noon. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's
topic. Come on, Tex. Come on. Are you serious?
Right.
Are you serious? You're embarrassing yourself. You're completely embarrassing yourself.
Right.
You're embarrassing yourself.
They have that.
Come on.
Ohio.
Let's talk about the price of eggs and the price of milk and bread and gasoline and property taxes. There's so many way more important issues out there than this. Seriously.
Well, yeah, and you know what? We didn't even get to Pete Rose.
Oh, I love it.
Pete Rose.
I'm sorry, I love it. I don't care.
But guys, on the Ohio State, the noon thing.
Yeah, the noon thing.
The Fox Networks pays the Big Ten, and Ohio State's part of the big money to do those games.
I know.
It's well known they want noon kickoffs. That's been the worst kept secret in America.
Right.
They call it Big Noon for a reason. Okay.
Yeah,
you took their money. Okay.
Right.
If you don't want noon games, give their money back.
Right.
Yeah.
And tell them you don't want your money.
I know.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have it both ways.
I saw that, and that was that. He's from Youngstown.
Yes, and he's embarrassing himself. He's completely embarrassing himself,
and he
on a national level.
Yeah,
putting that together, and he's saying that if they're in the top 10, they can't play a noon kickoff.
And the reference is the Ohio State Texas game this
Ohio
year.
State
Texas
Day,
August
opening
30th,
day, and it's noon
kickoff.
Right. And they don't want him. No, they want him at prime. I guess he wants to get
everything in prime. Yeah, because there's going to be more viewers at a 4 or 5 or 7 o'clock game that will be.
And that's true.
And that's exactly what it is. Again, it goes back to the money.
Right.
How many viewers are we going to get at noon?
Right.
And how many viewers are we going to get at 7?
Right. Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
Right. And that's the other thing.
It's just stupid.
It's just, the thing is, they follow the money. Fox is paying them, I could look it up, it's billions of dollars.
Yes.
The Fox TV contract, like all TV contracts, it's unbelievable. I'm sure they're paying them. Oh, I'm going to pull it. I'm sure it's $6-7 billion. And that's the part that blows me away is that what they make off TV would, let's see, for several, where is it? I know it's 80 million. No, that was Big East. I'm sorry, I got to pull. Anyway, the point is they're making billions. They're getting I'm sure they're getting over $1 billion from TV, from Fox, as they are the other networks. So they're going to do what they're told to do. Yeah. Big Ten. Correct. Here it is. It just says here, Big Ten. This is 2022. Big Ten completes a 7-year, $7 billion media rights contract with Fox.
$7 billion.
$7 billion. 7 years at $7 billion. $1 billion a year. And you don't want to play a noon kickoff?
That is
embarrassing. He's embarrassing himself on a national level, and he doesn't even know it.
This is
just because he obviously is an Ohio State fan. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I know he is, and I realize what he's saying, but in the reality of life, you got to follow. We always talk about the money, and this actually was Big Ten completed a new 7-year media rights contract. This was in 2022 with Fox, CBS, and NBC, more than $7 billion. This is just the Big Ten. This is not all the other conferences. This is
just Big Ten.
That's just Big Ten only.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And then how out of that, just how much schools get out of that.
Oh, yeah. Then, right. They all break that.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And you're going to dictate?
Right.
God.
Yeah.
Oh. I want to tell you, Irish Mike, I'm so against the portal and what they're doing at the college level. I think they're ruining college sport. I granted, I understand that these guys, their schools are making millions and billions of dollars, and they're taking all the money and they're exploiting the players. Okay, then how about we do something that says, here's what you're going to make if you come, make it for everybody. They're still making their monies and stuff. Instead, they dangle the carrot out there, which is the dollar, and these kids jump from school to school to school. Or when are they going to put a cap on it? When are they going to say, hang on, once you jump ship once, you're done. You ain't going to do it 2 or 3 times in a year.
And I told this, I know you're a Notre Dame fan like myself. I told this to Pat 2 years ago, and he can verify this. I don't know if you're aware of this. USC plays in South Bend in October, October 2025.
Yep.
And then they play out in LA next season, November 2026. And then the Notre Dame USC series is coming to an end after 96 years.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, USC does not want to play.
No.
I mean, Notre Dame definitely wants to play, but USC says now that we're in the Big Ten, we have to come back east 3, sometimes 4 times a year. And to do that to our student athletes, to come back to South Bend maybe a 5th time a year, because we play at Purdue, we play at Happy Valley, we play at Rutgers now.
Yeah.
We don't want our student athletes to fly back in the East Coast 4 or 5 times.
Can I ask you a question? That doesn't apply to the basketball players, though. They're only cared about the football, right? Because that doesn't account. They don't care about the basketball players and maybe the women's soccer team or whatever. All those other sports, they don't care about those players. It's just the football players they don't like coming at East. But the basketball players, too bad. They got to make. They got to travel.
Tell you this is. You're allowed to lose 2 games and still make the playoffs. But if you lose that 3rd game, you're eliminated.
Right.
He's trying to politely tell you they don't want to take on another tough non-conference opponent that they don't have.
Well, that's what he wants to say, but he's using the travel.
He has to use the travel. That's exactly
right.
But
that doesn't apply to the basketball players and all those other sports that they have to travel. Like I said, the women's swim team, the men's baseball team, all those other sports, that doesn't apply to them.
But see, in my opinion, USC isn't USC anymore. Back in the day, I mean, there was some big-time wars, and they played Notre Dame tough. Let's face it.
Oh, no.
But they're not the USC that was back when Simpson and some of those guys played.
Or even Pete Carroll run.
Right.
Yes, Pete Carroll, 100%. They don't have that kind of team anymore. I'm sorry, they're not getting the people to come out there. No. Your Notre Dame strong. Ohio State's are strong. Alabama, I'll say, still got some strength there.
We'll see another year.
We'll see another year. You're right. But look at Florida fell off the map. Florida State fell off. Remember the powerhouses they were? They're no longer.
Miami.
Even Texas for the longest time. Jam Jones, Ham Jones, Lamb Jones. They were amazing.
They're better now, but you're right.
But they are still not the teams that they were back in the day.
Right.
You still have your quality even Michigan, as much as I hate them, they're coming, they're strong now. They're playing tough.
They had a bad period with Rich Rod as their coach.
Exactly. So it's separating so bad. And now they don't want to come in and make all that travel and get embarrassed too. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's Lincoln Riley.
Well, that's true.
He's the coach of USC, and they're not happy with him anyway because he keeps losing games. He may be out of a job, but they owe him too much money.
Right.
They got to pay a lot of money to get rid of him.
So why drop a Notre Dame because you're making a ton of money off that Notre Dame
and
game?
You can't lose another game. You don't want to keep losing, and you can't,
But you can't afford not to play a team like Notre Dame that you're going to get a great whatever they get for playing Notre Dame.
Right.
You can't compared to them playing a Kentucky or somebody like that. You're not getting it.
Irish Mike there. Yeah. Call back.
What do you do? Hang up?
Yeah, or he dropped
disconnected. We lost him.
Yeah. Anyway, but when you break it down, and we didn't get into I forgot actually about Pete Rose getting into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to that story. It's wrapped up with what's going with football. But I was trying to think, Lincoln Riley's buyout is $90 million.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the other thing when you have these college coaches is when you want to get rid of them because you're not happy with the results and they underperform the contract, then you got to go to your boosters and say we need $90 million to get rid of him. So Lincoln
They're
Riley
going to just play it out.
Yeah. But if he keeps losing,
they'll lose revenue.
You lose, and you keep going, you're not getting into the college. See, what now is going to happen with college football is they're going to really hold this college football playoff as almost the watermark of keeping your job, because they're going to start saying to these coaches, because now there's the 14 teams, they're going to say, if you don't get into the college football playoff,
you're not doing your job.
USC, you're not doing your job,
right?
And so I think that a guy like Lincoln Riley and and that's why he doesn't want to play Notre Dame, because he doesn't want to have another loss on their schedule and have to play at Notre Dame. This thing with the travel, give me a break.
Yeah, I don't think that's
But the point on it is I could see it now because you were paying these coaches, like he signed a 10-year, $110 million deal. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, you got him for 10 years, it's basically $11 million a year. But the whole point on it is if you don't get into the college football playoff year in and year out, and you're thinking, well, we got to get rid of this guy, but then you want to pay him the buyout, but you can't continue to roll out a loser if he's not fulfilling really his end of the deal.
Because then it'll take years for you to build your program.
Yeah. So you're kind of in a bad now. Could you say that Lincoln Riley is on the proverbial hot seat? Let's see, he signed the deal in 2022 with USC. So what? That's 3-4. So what has he got? Like 5 years, 6 years left the contract. So I mean, I guess the problem line's going to be: what happens with a guy like Lincoln Riley? How long do they keep him? And when do they cut tie? If you don't win, and he goes, 7-5, and he's going to the Hall of Fame Bowl or the Poulan Weed Eater Bowl or one of those other bowls, but he ain't getting the Studebaker Bowl. Could make these up. The point is, or the Astro Bluebonnet Bowl.
Yeah, that was a good one, though. That was down in Texas. Come on now. That was a good one.
My favorite bowl. The whole point of it is, what are you going to do with these coaches who are making all the money? Going to buy them out? And then, and then you have to find another coach, and you got to pay him a lot of money.
Because what they're going to say, the coach coming in saying, hey,
right.
You gave him a contract of X amount of dollars. Right. And he flopped.
Right.
What are you going to do for me?
Right.
Are you going to guarantee me some money? And then what happens if I make the playoffs and go long? Are you going to give me some extra money?
Well, you got that in the right.
It has gotten college football from the coaches down to the players has gotten completely out of hand.
Right.
And I believe that.
Yeah.
They're ruining the sport.
But
I
you know what? Here's the bottom line now. People say that.
Still watch.
But they watch.
Yeah.
And that's all that counts. See, the whole bottom line is I've heard people keep saying that they are ruining college football. All this is going to ruin college football. And I laugh is because I said, no, it's not. Because you know why? We're going to watch. I'm not turning off Ohio State because the coach is either not getting enough money or getting too much money or, the kids transfer.
Right.
I'm watching Ohio State
me with Notre Dame.
You with Notre Dame and your girlfriend,
Carol with Ohio State.
Right. She's going to tune in every Saturday.
Regardless
of what is going on, she probably doesn't know, and she doesn't even care anyway, because she's watching Ohio State because she did it since she was a kid, like us. Everybody grew up watching Ohio State. I don't care what's going on as far as transfers and portals and NIL money. I watch Ohio State because I want them to win. If some kid's making money, I don't care. I want them to win.
I'll take it a step further. Okay, so those games are played, again, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. What happens when 8 o'clock comes on? You're not going to watch it because LSU's playing somebody? Heck no, I want to watch a football game. So guess what? There's their revenue there, too. And I could care less. I just want to watch a football game.
And that's the other problem. The other deal is America, and that's the NFL. Remember, the two most popular sports in the country, NFL football and college football, are 1 and 2 in ratings.
Yep.
And then your NBA and baseball all fall in. But those two sports are going to drive ratings, and that's where all the money lays at.
I'm going to make a little point, and I know it's off the mark a little bit, but that's it. Think about high school. At high school, football's number one. It supports all the other sports because basketball, boys and girls, lacrosse, all those sports do nothing. They don't bring the revenues, and they do nothing. Football. Everything is about the football.
That's everywhere.
But it's everywhere. So, you're taking that to the college level and pro level. It's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's the bottom line. You're going to get more revenues through TV and through everything with that.
When you have over 100,000 people show up for an NFL draft, that's not like a game or anything. It's not really an event. I mean, I guess you could make it's an event, but it's not a game. It's not like you're watching a game. You're sitting there waiting for your team to pick somebody.
Well, Jim and I, we through the radio station, we're up with Cleveland was there.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, it is a show.
No, it's a show.
It's a show. And the amount of people that come there, spend the money, those people are coming in and filling those hotels. So they're smart. They know how they're selling their product. And you got to figure, it may not be 50, 60 people to go from Philadelphia to Cleveland or whatever. That might be less, but it's still people coming and supporting.
And they're
paying the money.
Paying money. It's all okay. I didn't cover Pete Rose now getting his, he's now eligible to be voted in by the Hall of Fame. They wait till he dies and then they say, okay.
It's safe that way.
Well, then why didn't they put that for Joe Jackson and all those guys on the Black Sox? Why did they wait now and say, okay, Joe Jackson died in 1951. So poor Joe's been dead for how many years? Oh, no, well, now he can't. Now the legacy, what is some legacy crap? But the whole point is baseball made a lot of money off of Pete Rose when they suspended him. You go to the Hall of Fame, you got nothing but Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. His bat, his cleats, the ball he hit, yada, yada, yada. Baseball liked to make now the reason why Pete Rose wasn't in the Hall of Fame because of him.
Yeah.
Because Pete Rose is basically, when you listen to him, the reality is the man was having sex with a 14-year-old girl who he thought was 18 or 16 at the time. That all comes out in court because he didn't like Dowd put it in the report.
Right.
Rose sued Dowd, and then it actually comes out in court, and the girl testified, Pete, when we basically, had our thing, I was 14. Right. Pete goes, I didn't know you were 4. That's how Pete's not real smart here.
Well,
and among other things what Pete did, Pete would kind of, he had a gambling. He always gambled on baseball. Always, I could go on and on and on why Pete Rose kept himself out of the Hall of Fame. But you could and the argument is, but he had the statistics and the numbers to get in. And here's the other thing. Alex Karras and Paul Hornung bet on their own teams back in the early 60s, I think in 61 or 62. They were suspended for 1 year.
Yep.
1 year suspension.
Yep.
Pete Rose bet on his team to win like Karras and Hornung did. He has a lifetime ban. You got to give me a break, a lifetime ban for that? I mean, Alex Karras, Paul Hornung,
And there was probably a lot more.
That was I always tell this story about the guy, Jack Molinas, who was when you look him up, I read a book about him. He was a gambler. He was supposedly game fixing. He would pay the players to shave points.
Oh, man.
He was tied to the mafia.
Well,
and they ultimately did him in.
Sure.
Because he didn't pay the money he owed them. But the point was when Molinas was a very good basketball player. He played in the NBA in the 50s. He was playing for the Pistons when they were in Fort Wayne. The owner found out that Molinas was betting on games.
Betting, yeah.
So, what Molinas was doing is in the NBA, they were shaving points. The players, instead of winning by the 8, they'd only win by 6. So they weren't throwing the game; they were just shaving the points. So they were so what happened is they called. This is at the time the commissioner called him in. NBA commissioner was a Podoloff, I believe, called him in and said, "Hey, you're shaving points. We have you." And so Molinas goes, "Yeah, we're going to suspend you forever. You're done." And Molinas goes, "Well, why are you suspending me?" He goes, everybody's doing it. And the commissioner goes, "I know they are.
Because I an example.
You're the example.
Yep.
I'm going to make you the example."
Sure.
Because Molinas goes in and tells the guy, "Hey, I know that." He goes, "They're all doing it." He goes, "I know they are." He goes, the whole point of it is the commissioner knew that the players were all in there shaving points because they weren't getting paid any. They were paying the players back then were getting $5,000 a year, $7,500 a year, and getting $10.
That's
meal
when they had to
money.
go out after season and get a job.
Right. All the players back in that time frame all had jobs because you didn't make enough money to live off of playing basketball or football.
They were all like that, or baseball.
All of them were. So the point is, but the players then in the NBA, not all of them, there were some that were saying, "Okay, fine, we're supposed to win by 8 points. We'll win by 4 points or 3 points.
Still win the game.
We'll win the game, and then we get our money." And that's what was occurring. And they knew, the funniest part, I always laughed, is the commissioner knew it. That was the whole point of the thing.
Right.
When Molinas is in there and the commissioner's I'm suspended, he goes, why me? He goes, "Well, you're a rookie and I'm making you the example." He goes, I know there's players doing it. I just don't have enough to prove them. And I can't suspend them all because I don't have a league.
See, my thing with Rose was you cannot deny what he did on a field. Isn't that how you are judged? Right. I'm sorry. I have a bit of a problem with that. See, you got to be. The man broke records. The only thing I hated about him was at that All-Star game when he come around third base and plowed into Fosse, and Fosse was done after that.
Yeah, pretty much. I know.
But the man hustled. The man,
he did.
He did what he needed to do
on the field. A great
exactly.
Player. Off the field, he could have been in prison for statutory rape because he had supposedly in the Dowd report. He was trolling. He had his buddies allegedly trolling the crowd for young girls that he wanted to basically sleep with after the game. So these guys would troll the crowd, look for good young girls under and quote 16 is because it was a quote.
It turns my stomach.
Right. And the point I've always said is if you're a father or an uncle or, you'd be appalled and you'd kill the guy, which I get it. But that was what you had here is Pete Rose is kind of one of those scummiest, lowest forms of people out there doing this is just appalling. And the FBI looked into it and they were going to try to get him on, but they couldn't prove anything. And yet a statute of limitations issue with this, and they could never really tie him in, but they were going out to get him for statutory rape because all these girls.
And how many NBA players, football players, baseball players have done this in the past?
Oh no,
There's no doubt. They needed an example, and who bigger than Pete Rose?
Well, again, and then Pete Rose doesn't endear himself.
No, and he blew it himself.
Pete Rose continued to shoot himself in the foot. He actually waited to tell everybody he bet on baseball 15 years after he did it because he was trying to sell a book. and make money. In 2004, he put out a book, and in the book, he admits he bet on baseball. But he waited, and people go, well, why did you wait 15 years to do that? Is because he was selling a book to make money. That's what you were dealing with. You had a guy that just had no conscience of like right or wrong, almost to the point where it's like, doesn't he get it? Like,
no, he didn't.
No,
that's the problem. He didn't get it.
He's continuing to gamble in Vegas and going on,
right?
And he wouldn't quit gambling. And then when I think it was one of the commissioners said, "Have you quit gambling?" Because they were thinking, "Can we put him in?" He goes, "No, I'm not. I'm still gambling." And they're like, "You don't get it."
Yeah, I get you.
Saturday morning sports fade. We end on that note.
Yeah.
Thank you, Philling and Bob.
I appreciate it.
Great job, Bob Gessler, Pat Lucia. Everybody stay safe and do not drink, do not drive. Stay sober and buckle up.
The stations that always keep you in the zone.
I love it.
It's awesome.
Western Reserve Radio, Western Reserve Radio 2, and City View Sportscast, Youngstown, Ohio.
With Dave Ross and Jensen Lewis.
Whatever you think of Derek Carr, I hate to see athletes have their careers ended prematurely.
This dynamic now leads me into a couple of markets here. I would jump on the Saints 5-1 for fewest wins, knowing that would give them the best opportunity for an Arch Manning. They need multiple pieces, Dave. So 5-1 right now, Saints for the fewest wins. Wouldn't mind jumping on that right away.
VSiN by the books, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern on VSiN, the sports betting network.